Hi guys, and thank you for watching. On today's video,
we're going to talk to you about the new Stinger Elev8 8-inch floating multimedia display system with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and so many other features, so stay tuned. Adding to the amazing products that Stinger already makes, such as interconnects and power cable, distribution blocks, and marine audio, amplifiers, and speakers, they now make an 8-inch multimedia system. Let's unbox this thing and take a look and see what comes inside. Now I'm going to warn you right now, this one's going to be long because this guy here is packed full of features. Now one of the things you're going to find in the box as soon as you open up is the installation guide. You'll also find your warranty card and the instructions on where to find your downloadable user manual. You'll also find an updated install guide. So if you head over to Stinger Electronics, click on the Stinger tab, and scroll down to where it says multimedia, what you'll find is a listing of the Elev8, the add-on GPS system, the extension cables, both the LVDS display video harness and the 8-inch pin display power harness. Both are 5 feet and you do have to buy them together, as well as the optional IR remote. If you click on the Elev8, it'll take you to the Elev8 page. Scroll down to where it says guides, and here you'll find the user's guide, the install guide, as well as the custom install guide for GM trucks. One of the things about this radio, before we actually even get into talking about it, is that it is designed to work with vehicles that have interesting installation challenges, such as the GM here, where you have very little mounting depth. These instructions are showing you how to install the Elev8 without having to cut up the dash or do any serious work to it. There will be more as time goes on. Now once you're done printing that updated install guide or downloading it to your device, you can then take a look at it. We've also gone ahead and downloaded the instruction manual as well. Pull out the big top piece of foam. Inside the box are a couple of plastic pieces. The first one is going to be your accordion boot to go between the main unit and the screen if you are installing it that way. The plastic dash mount bracket. The plastic radio mount bracket. This is what's going to attach to the radio and allow it to clamp into this. And then there's also a plastic shim if you want to add an angle to the radio. Then there's also the metal mounting bracket. Between this and this, along with the brain, will turn this into a double DIN mount, which we're going to show you as the video progresses. We have the radio module here, along with the floating 8-inch touchscreen. These are all the hard goods that come in the box. Now inside here there is a second box that has all the harnesses. Let's start with those first, and then we'll come back and assemble it and talk about what all these inputs are on the back of the radio. Now these all come individually bagged. We have unbagged them. The first thing you're going to find is this blue cable here. This is the 1.5 foot LVDS display video harness. Then we have this 1.5 foot black display power harness. We have the main power harness. Now the harness uses some standard color wires and some that are slightly different. Let's go over it real quick. We have yellow, red, and black, which is going to be constant 12 volts, accessory, and ground. We have 8 speaker wires. Driver's front is white, passenger front is gray, driver's rear is green, and passenger rear is purple. You have a solid and a stripe. The stripe is negative. We have an orange wire, which is the illumination dimmer control, green with a white stripe, which is a reverse trigger, blue, which is the powered or amplified antenna, blue with a white stripe, which is the amplifier turn on, pink wire, which is parking brake. Next we have the main RCAs. Now there's a whole bunch of them. Let's put them together into their corresponding groups. First is going to be your preamp output, which is a 4 volt. You have this brown blue with a black cable. This is going to be your subwoofer output. Next to that, you're going to have a black cable with a white and red end on them, and these are going to be your line output for front, left, and right. You have a gray cable that has a red and white. This is going to be your line output rear. So we have what is called the CVBS in or AV input for video, as well as the line in AV left and right. So this would be if you're going to add any form of other video input that you want to add to the unit. Next set of cables is going to be your AV output. This is unique in that it has a matched AV output. They're non-switchable. They both have the same video that's going to play on them. If you're going to be putting in headrests or dual screens, you can feed these into both. You won't need to use an amplifier. And of course it has a black cable here with the white and red ends is going to be your audio output for those. Lastly, we have the green cable with the yellow end. That is going to be your backup camera input. Lastly, on this harness, it has these 3 wires here. These are if your car has the older style resistive steering wheel controls, it has an input directly for it, so you don't have to add an external steering wheel control. It has 3 wires. Black is ground, brown is input 1, brown black would be input 2. Now, since we were talking about steering wheel controls, you have your second harness here. This has 2 black 1/8 inch style headphone jack looking inputs on it. One is going to be SWI, which is for if you don't have the older resistive style steering wheel controls, you can add something like SWI CP2, SWI RC, or an interface module that has steering wheel controls built into it, like an RP4 or an RP5. You also have the IR input. This is going to be for if you plan on getting the controller for it. It comes with a GPS antenna, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, Bluetooth microphone. If you are going to be using this microphone, which we'll talk about later, it comes with this harness here that is going to be your microphone input, as well as rear audio input for a backup camera. So if you're putting this in something that the backup camera has a microphone in it for you to hear what's going on behind you, it has an audio input for that. It's the Sirius XM input. This is to be teamed up with the SVX300 Sirius add-on tuner. There's also 3 other wires on here that are not going to be used for the install, and they come capped off. The last harness in the box is this guy here. This is the multi-camera switching cable. That means this radio actually will take 4 camera inputs, reverse, and 3 others. When looking at the harness, you have inputs 2, 3, and 4, as well as triggers for 2, 3, and 4. This is designed for a positive pulse, such as a turn signal. You can trigger this, and it will turn on the camera, and when the turn signal shuts off, it'll automatically deactivate the camera, which we will be showing you. And then it also has an expansion input on it here. Other things that come in the box are a couple bags of screws, a couple back straps, a wipe to clean the screen, and a metal mounting bracket for the GPS antenna. Now that we have all the cables out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual radio itself. We're going to plug these cables in, as well as talk about all the extra features that are built into this that don't take a cable. So talk about the 2 dual USBs here. USB 1 on the top is going to be for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You can also plug in a thumb drive or a hard drive, because this will read FAT32 and NTFS. This output is a 1.5 amp output. Over here, it has an HDMI input, so you can run in a DVD player that has HDMI, or if you have a smartphone that has an HDMI output, you can plug that in here. Down here, when you pull this guy off, this is going to expose your Touchlink digital output that is controlled via the volume knob. So this will turn up and down with the master volume on the radio. Let's start plugging in some of these cables. First one here in the corner is going to be for your GPS. Conveniently, both ends are blue. This USB looking connector here is going to be for your blue cable gray end LVDS input. Right below that, you're going to have an input for your power harness for the front display. Your main RCA harness is going to plug in here on the bottom. Right above that is going to be your main power harness. Then we have this white control center here. In the bottom left, we have the 4-pin microphone camera audio input. Next to that is going to be your Sirius XM input. Above that will be your multi-camera input. And then lastly, next to that, you're going to have your IR steering wheel control input. Then over here, of course, is going to be your FM antenna. Now that we have this all plugged in, let's go ahead and take a look at the screen and how the brackets assemble on that. For this, you're going to want to grab the 2 bags of screws, as well as a Phillips screwdriver. Do not use a drill to assemble this. Use a screwdriver. Now on page 5 of the installation manual, it gives you a screw list here, so that if you're trying to figure out what screw to use in what part of the installation, you can compare it to this chart. The first thing we want to do is go ahead and put a cloth down so that we can set our monitor on top of that. This does have a piece of plastic on it to protect it, but there's no reason to expose it to any undue dangers. Looking at the back of the radio is also a good time to point out the inputs here for the blue LVDS display cable, as well as the front display power harness. The bracket is designed for the spring to go here on the bottom. This moves. This is designed to clip onto the bottom first, like this, push down on it, and it locks into place. To remove it, push up, tilt back, and it'll come right off. Looking at the back of the display screen, make sure that the spring is on what you want to be the bottom, mounted here. As you can see, there is some play where it will slide up and down. Now there is also the shim that we talked about that will allow the screen to tilt a little towards the driver. Let's take a look at how these go together. There's a pin located on the bottom of it here, and there's a hole located here. If you line the two up like so, you'll notice that it will add in that little arc towards you, the driver. If you'd like to angle it towards the passenger, you could do that as well. Now the bag of screws has two different length screws depending on whether you're going to install it with the angle or not. So this is what it looks like with it set in the 0 position, and this is what it would look like with the shim added. You'll notice that it does do this, so you can tip it up towards you or tip it down depending on where it needs to be. There are holes located here and here to match that. If you'd like it at more of an angle, insert a screw here. If you'd like it more flat, insert a screw here. And then this will also slide up or slide down depending on how high or low you want it in the dash. If you'd like to hide this whole apparatus, that is what the accordion boot is for. And there is a plastic trim on one side and not one on the other. And that plastic trim is designed to attach to these hooks here. There's this little piece that sticks down here. If you peel this back, you'll notice that it says top on it. So that's going to go towards the top of the radio. On the radio itself, there is a little indentation here, and it also says top. Now what you want to do is loosen this up just a little bit so it's not as tight on this. You can reach in to get these teeth underneath it, line up your tops, stretch this out, and then it'll snap into place. Tighten this back up to your desired height. Once attached, this is what it'll look like. So if you have a large gap between where this is mounted in a dash kit and the radio, you may want to add the accordion boot. Not all installations are going to need this. Sometimes this is going to be recessed in enough to where this won't be necessary. To assemble this in the double DIN configuration, you'll need the metal bracket. There is 2 holes here as well as 2 grooves here. The holes are going to line up with the holes that are located on your mount. Line it up in place. Grab 2 of the short screws with the washer-like appearance and screw them in. Next, take the tuner, line it up, and slide it forward until it makes contact with the metal plate. You'll notice that there are 2 screw locations on the top of the radio. Grab 2 more of the screws that look like they have a washer attached to them. Once this is done, on the side you have all the provisions that you'd normally have on a double DIN radio. Now you can install this into a kit just like a normal double DIN. It will be like a short chassis, it's not going to be as deep, so you'll have plenty of room for all the harnesses that you need to attach to it. So located on the other side of the main radio brain, you'll notice this little SD card slot here that says for navigation only. And what that's used for is this guy. This is the SE-P14. This is the iGo add-on navigation card. If you live in an area that doesn't have the best cell phone coverage, or you don't like Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you can add this to it and have onboard navigation. So when the unit first powers up, it gives you this gorgeous Stinger display. Let's go ahead and talk about the buttons and what they do, because there are hard buttons as well as actual physical touchscreen buttons. Now starting on our left, we have the master volume control, which is indicated here by turning up and down the volume. This is also a function button. You can press it in. Right now, as you notice, the screen is dimming. There's also a soft button here that will dim the screen too. And then if you press and hold it, it'll go ahead and power down the radio. Tap it again and turn it back on. Below that is going to be mute, your main home screen, as well as push to talk. Now located down on the bottom here is a small little hole. This is the internal microphone. That could be used if you do not want to use the add-on microphone. And then up here, located next to the power icon, is the reset button. On the right side, you have your tuner controller here, as well as an enter, track up, or preset up, preset down, and then a hard button to access your navigation system. Now let's talk about the screen. This is an 8-inch, 16 by 9, 1024 by 600 with 1,843,200 pixels. It is a capacitive touch. The radio itself has a 30 watt by 4 amplifier at 4 ohms. Is 2 ohm allowable. True power is going to be 25 by 4 at 4 ohms with a 20 to 18K frequency range at 10% total harmonic distortion at 14.4. As we said, it also has a 4-volt pre-out. The on-screen displays are customizable. Background, and these bottom buttons here. This is an access to your main menu, which is a redundant of the home icon. Your sources are displayed here. You have radio. Once in radio, if you tap the AM FM located here in the corner, it'll go ahead and bring up FM2, FM3, AM1, AM2, and then cycle back around to FM1. Next up is going to be your phone. You can add up to 5 phones. You can change your PIN code, adjust your microphone gain. The phone home page is going to look like this. You have your 9 key. Tap it again. It'll take you back to your contacts, call log, and favorites. Tap settings and it'll take you back to your phone page. Bluetooth music is going to be next. This uses 4.2 A2DP with an aptX chip for premium sound playback. Your Sirius XM. This will function if you add in the SVX 300 add-on tuner. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, which we'll come back to. USB, as we said, this will play NTFS as well as FAT32, as well as videos and FLAC. It has control for an iPod, settings, your HDMI input control, your AV input, display, rear video output. Display is also located here. Now once in display, there's a couple things you can do. You can adjust the brightness of the display both for daytime and nighttime. However, when in nighttime mode, you do have to have that function on in order to adjust it. So if we adjust it now, nothing will happen. If we turn on our lights, it'll now be dimmed, and we can go ahead and turn that down or turn that up. Then we have our auto dim. That means when the orange wire is connected and you turn on your lights, it'll automatically dim your screen. If you don't like that, you can select off. Rear zone control is going to be for those dual video outputs. Select what you'd like to be on that screen. Out of the box, you have your AV inputs as well as USB as a source. Your Apple CarPlay setup is located here. You can switch between left and right hand drive. You can also shut CarPlay off. You can adjust your mic CarPlay gain here as well. Your Android Auto settings are here. Android Auto off if you don't want it. As well as, do you want it to auto launch when you get in the car, on and off. Display will take us to that same page. We're going to come back to camera, display off. We'll go ahead and just turn on the clock. Tap anywhere to turn back on. Let's go back to settings. Tap time. You can adjust your clock simply by scrolling up and down. You can change between clock on, 24-hour, or 12-hour. You have an adjustment for your beep. Do you want it low, mid, high, or off altogether? You have 3 languages to choose from: English, French, Spanish. Now right here where it says load defaults, this is the reset for this. When you tap this, it'll go ahead and reset the radio back to the factory settings. It does take a while. We'll do it at the very end. Next on your choices is cameras. As we said, this has 4 cameras and 4 triggers. Your reverse wire is trigger for camera 1, camera 2 trigger, camera 3 trigger, 4 trigger, if you'd like them to be on triggers. If not, you can simply turn off the triggers. And then you can turn on and off the reverse camera audio. Style is where you get to customize the look and feel of the unit. First up is going to be illumination. Default is auto. When on auto and the orange illumination wire is connected, it's going to turn on the LEDs that backlight these buttons as well as dim the screen, just like this. If you select on, that's going to go ahead and turn on these LEDs. However, when the orange illumination is connected, it'll still dim the screen. If you select off, the LEDs will never come on, but the screen will still dim when the orange wire is connected. Next to that is going to be illumination color. That has to do with these LEDs and what color they want to be. And then below that is highlight color. Now the colors are the same for both. If you'll notice here, this is set to aqua. On both of them, you can choose between blue, red, gold, green, white, and back to aqua. And then you can control the LED brightness here by tapping these, and you can go up and down between 0 and 20. And then for full customization, you can select background. Now once in background, you have 9 backgrounds to choose from, as well as 3 that you can import of your own. Simply tap on it and we'll change the background for you. Tabs. Tabs are these buttons here across the bottom. You get to pick which ones you want to do what. Default is AM, FM, USB, camera, audio, Bluetooth music, Sirius XM, and phone. You can choose anything you want though. So tab 2, we can pick. So if we'd like to be able to turn our subwoofer on and off, we can do that. If we don't have Sirius XM, but we've added HDMI, we can pick that. So now when we're there, we can go ahead and select the sub output. Right on the face of the radio, we can go into our sub level control, crossover, subwoofer on and off, and phase. Let's go ahead and take a look at the camera page. Now you can access it here. If you're on your main source page, you can select camera here if you have that as a fast key. And what you'll notice here is that these 4 camera options are available to you. So you have front camera, tap the screen, left camera, right camera, rear camera. If you are connected to a turn signal, when the turn signal is turned on, it'll automatically flip over to that camera. When the turn signal is slipped off, it'll go ahead and go back to the screen. It has a 3-second delay. It is set up to take the pulse of the turn signal, and then when the turn signal stops, it's going to automatically just flip back. One other thing that's accessible when you're in settings is this gear you'll notice here at the top. If you tap it, it's going to ask for a passcode, which is in the new instruction manual, but is 15500, and hit OK. This is going to allow you to do a few things. Version information, tap that. This is going to give you all the information on the unit, what software it's running. So if you need to do an update, you'll be able to find that here, as well as load updates, update software, and a master reset. Be careful touching that. If you come down to here where it says SWC custom, this has to do with those 3 resistive base steering wheel wires. If you'd like to remap those because your car has it, this is where this is going to be done. Now if you don't have that and you're using a add-on steering wheel control interface, just leave these alone. Naturally, no radio would be complete without an amazing audio section. So let's take a look at that. First up is going to be the EQ. This has a 15-band equalizer. It has 3 presets: bass boost, rhythm, vocal, and flat. It also has 2 users and a master preset. To set the EQ, simply tap on it. It's going to ask you to please select a location before making adjustments. We'll go ahead and select master preset. Now we can simply just drag up or down anywhere on our EQ and make a EQ setting. What master preset does is that's going to go ahead and apply this EQ to all the sources. If you don't want to do that, then you can go to that specific source. For example, we will select AV input, select audio, go to EQ. As you can see, the master preset is there, but if we'd like that to be flat, then it will now be flat. User 1 and 2 can also be set the same way. This has source tone adjust. Loudness on and off. Loudness is used for low level listening to add impact and depth to the music. If you're somebody that keeps the volume kind of low on the knob and you like that nice feel, go ahead and turn on loudness. Front speaker high pass filter, you have the adjustment bypassing it: 25, 40, 63, 100, 160, and 250. 6, 12, 18 dB per octave slope. In the rear, uses the same exact frequencies and slope. If we select speaker, this is where we'll find our balance and fader, as well as time alignment. Default is off. Go ahead and tap it on, and then tap the gear. You can select where you're going to be sitting in the car. And to set your time alignment, what you need to do is measure between your head and the corresponding speakers. Put those numbers into the locations here. You have driver's front, driver's rear, passenger front, passenger rear, and then both subwoofers. Enter the numbers in inches and it'll go ahead and do all the math to move the sound where it needs to be. Sub out, you have the same crossover points that you had on the high pass, but you've added a level control as well as 0 and 180 degrees out of phase and an on off. Volume, this is a cool feature that has to do with getting in and out of the vehicle. Startup mode would be described as last, so if you get out of the car, this will automatically power up and play the volume where you were last at. If you're one of those people that doesn't remember where they set the volume, maybe you were playing it too loud, and select set, and now you can select a volume that'll automatically start up at every time the radio starts up. That means if you're jamming on the way home and in the morning you want it nice and quiet, put it on set and it'll do that for you. Bluetooth mode works the same way. When you go to other, now you can set up your Toshlink on and off, which is your digital out, whether you'd like to use the external microphone or the internal microphone located here. Now, two of the biggest sources that this has that most of you are going to be wanting to use is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Once plugged into the top USB, we can access our Android Auto. Here you'll have access to Google Maps and Waze, your phone book contacts, as well as being able to dial a number, your main homepage. On the icons, if you see an arrow like this one here, that means there's multiple choices. Tap on it and you'll have access to those. In this case, music, we have Spotify, Pandora, and Google Music. Pick one and it will start playing it and give you access to all your channels. The little speedometer icon over here is designed to take you back to your radio. If you have an iPhone plugged in, Apple CarPlay will highlight. Tap that and your icons will appear here. If you have dots across the bottom here, you can swipe across and check out all your apps that are available to you, such as Pandora, Spotify, Waze, navigation, maps, phone. If you push the microphone button here, it's going to beep and ask you to say something. Both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay will do that. And of course, it gives you access to your maps. Select the home icon to take you back to your main menu page. Now, if you did want the add-on navigation, make sure the unit is unpowered, plug the SD card into the front. It'll go ahead and reboot. You can select the language you like, and it's going to ask you to set up the system. There's two different types of readback that are available to you: announced or not announced. If you'd like to name the streets, leave it on either Susan or Tom and select next. Make sure that the information here is all correct. Select next. If you'd like freeways, tolls, ferries, shuttles, turn them on and off, select next. Once that's done, select finish, and your navigation is all set and ready to go. Select the little arrows here in the bottom corner. Select new route, add in a destination, and she'll go ahead and take you where you want it to go. Now, once on the display screen, two fingers on, pinch to zoom, move around, zoom in, rotate. Now, the last thing we want to show you was in that main menu page where it said load defaults. Go ahead and select OK. The unit's going to shut down and then start rebooting. This is going to take about 3 to 5 minutes and the screen will turn on and off a couple times. Well, there you have it, guys. That's the new Stinger Elev8 radio and all its cool features. We hope you enjoyed this. Fernando, if you please.
So if you like this video, please subscribe, share, like. You know where you find us: Facebook, Instagram, and here in YouTube.
You guys have a wonderful day as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.